Yeah, we're just, I'm gonna just kind of cover some of the basics of body work and a little bit of dent removal. I'm not gonna go crazy for the dent removal and shrinking and all that stuff, because I think we're gonna save that for like a metal shaping class sometime, where we'll really explain more of, you know, what stretch metal is like and how you can shrink it, and using shrinking dollies and shrinking wheels and all that kind of stuff. So this is just basically like to pound out a small dent so that you're not filling it with a bunch of body filler. And a couple techniques for just basically doing that. And then we'll probably do an actual metal shaping class at some point where we can show you some other neater tricks as far as metal. This will more or less just cover doing a panel. Obviously we do just the restoration here, so pretty much everything that we do here, we send out, have it media blasted. It comes back, and then we immediately putting it in an etching primer, which is this black stuff you can see here. So we sent this out, came back, bare metal. We immediately hang them in the booth and put an epoxy. This is an epoxy etch prime by PPG. They make etch primer in spray cans as well. So if you have something small or whatever, this works pretty well. We buy this by the case. When we're making a small patch panel or something, and we just want to have it covered up. At the end of the day, all this humidity, any bare metal will flash rust like that in this kind of weather. I know you've all seen those shows on the televisions where all these shops out west have all these bare metal cars sitting in their shops. Looks cool as hell. Not gonna fly out here in New England or Florida or someplace where it's humid. In fact, when we get stuff back from sandblast, we always put on rubber gloves to handle them, because even the sweat from your hands will leave a rusty handprint. And you may not even see it. You may put something on there and then you go ahead and prime it. And a month later, we finally pull this off the shelf to do something with it, and we're looking at all these little bumps right here, and it will be rust. We'll take this off and you'll see a rusty handprint right there. So it takes very little to make that sandblasted metal rust. So again, we're going more from like bare metal up. We're not doing so much like a dent in somebody's fender or something like that. I mean, I'll touch up on it a little bit as far as what you would do to kind of blend it into some existing paint or something, but this is more or less just how do you prep the metal, how do you mix up some body filler, what are the different types of body filler, what are some of the basic techniques for sanding said body filler, whether you have a sander or a sanding block. So so this is these panels here are back from sandblast. They have an etching prime. Another good thing about putting them in this black etching primer, which you'll see in a minute, is there's a couple different ways you can go about looking for your dents. So one thing is when you spray them in the booth, obviously, the primer is still wet and it will be shiny. So you can see something there. This is a wax and grease remover. Usually comes in gallons, and we used to always just pour some on a rag and wipe the panel down. And then they came up with these handy dandy little pump them up and spray them. So if I spray this down now, you guys can see it's pretty flat, meaning no shine on it. But if I wet it, you couldn't see that before, but then you can see it now. No, you can see there's obviously a dent here, which maybe you couldn't see before. And I think there was something down here when I looked earlier. You can see another one right here. So obviously everyone knows when you paint something black, it shows everything. Here you go, it's black, you wet it, and it shows everything. So that's one way of doing it. Another way, and this is what we do here, is, and this etching primer, by the way, stays open indefinitely. What that means is you don't need to sand it to put something on top of it. And we use PPG DP, and they'll tell you, or in the instruction sheets, that it's open for up to a week before you would have to sand it to put something on top of it. And then the instructors, when I was down there taking classes eons ago, said the only reason they even say that is they're concerned more about contamination. Something in the air, somebody's spraying something over there and something lands on it. They want you to sand it and reapply more for contamination purposes. I've tested it before. I've had panels that have been sitting for years, like in storage, and on something of my own or something that isn't important, we'll say, I've sprayed right over something like this that's been sitting for a long, long time. It sticks like nails. It does not need to be sanded. A lot of people will still just scuff it for peace of mind. That's fine too. So the other thing for why I like to use this black is to check for dents. What we end up doing is taking a hard block like this. I'll go over the different sanded blocks in a minute, but a nice hard one like this, and 180 grit sandpaper. So again, this is if you just don't wet the panel. This is so you can actually see something. So we saw this right here when we wet it, but we take this. This looked pretty flat, but if you sand it, this will really show every little detail. So you can obviously see I got a little high spot right here. It's kind of low right here and high, on the edge here. That one shows up pretty clearly. But not only does it show up, you saw that it looked like just a small crease right there, but now you can see just how far it extends. So here's a little thing about the touching on metalwork a little bit. And again, I'm not going to go crazy with this, but that's a fairly significant dent. So that's something that we're going to pound out before we put fill on it. Metal moves, obviously. So when you have a dent like this, that didn't just affect this one area. And if somebody wants to come and feel this, they can. But if you run your hand right here, you're in here, this is out. So if you run your hand across it, and I'll run the block out afterwards, you can actually feel a little bit of a crown right there. So if anyone wants to see if they can feel it. Anyone? Bueller. test your bodyman's hands.
Exactly.
Feel it.
That's what I'm here for.
Can you feel it?
No.
No?
But that doesn't, how do I, all right. Oh yeah, I can, right here.
Be right above it, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, what's happening? Oh, sorry.
That watch. Yeah, it's a gentle roll.
It's a gentle roll, yeah.
But it's there,
it's like right in
and
here.
you'll see in a second.
Like if you didn't tell me it was there, I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, again, 180 grit. We're just doing the same thing as we did down here. going a little further just to prove the point.
Yeah.
There it is. So when this got pushed in, that metal had to go somewhere, that energy, and it pushed it out right there. Without going too crazy about metal work, I'm just going to hammer and dolly this out just for the interest in time. I would do that anyways if I was to fix this, like, we'll say for real. I would start by just hammering and dolling, get the bulk of it out with a hammer. And then at the very end, before I really start doing any finish work, we actually have a tool that welds itself to the panel. So it would weld itself to the panel. I would hold tension on it this way, and I would pound that. So if you're holding tension here and you hit this lightly with a hammer, when you hit that, it's gonna make this naturally pull a little bit. So that's gonna go down, that's gonna come out. You can kind of do the same thing. Again, I'm not gonna go crazy with this. If we flip this over and we use, let's say, a screwdriver or a hammer or something, and just put pressure on that, and then tap right here, it would do the same thing. It would move that out and then make that. The same thing, actually, I can show you. You can see that giant dent in the front of this. So this is really significant, and this is why we didn't use this fender. I went all the way out to Arizona to get a replacement. But the same thing happened here. This got hit, and that energy went somewhere and had to push that metal somewhere. So the same thing, if you end up feeling the top of this fender, this one's actually really noticeable. But if you run your hand across the top of that fender, you can feel where it is.
Oh yeah. Yep, right there. Yeah, exactly.
And it's pretty significant, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's a hump.
a lot more pronounced than, let's say, that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Here's another trick too, that the less experienced people like that.
Don't use your fingertips.
Actually,
Like you're rubbing your girlfriend's ass.
now you don't feel the texture of the panel. You're really just feeling the up and down on it. A little harder to feel that one still, but it's,
I gotta try.
go ahead, try it.
Oh yeah.
See how it's, you're not feeling that gritty
Right.
texture.
Definitely. Huh. That's a good trick.
A paper towel works better because it's just a little thicker and it doesn't slide out from under your hand.
So you couldn't,
The
No.
mixing pad, like a artist palette.
Artiste.
We are an artiste. Glad you came along.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah, man.
These are great. They got like almost like a wax finish on them. It's when you're spreading body filler all day long. These are great. You can use a piece of cardboard. That's what we use for years. Works fine. You're going to be doing a whole car. Might want to invest. They make big ones too. We use the big ones a lot. And this is also referred to as quarter panel in a can, or fender in a can, or door in a can, depending what panel you're working on. Yeah. You can get it by the gallon. I think you can get it by the quart too. Some different brands. We get it by a 3-gallon pail. One of the questions obviously is, how much hardener do you use? Right? So this particular brand of filler is super runny. You can also see that. Again, the original Bondo brand is not nearly as runny as this. Hence why it's sanded like concrete and whatever. The other thing that this does is not get pinholes. And what pinholes are is air trapped in the body filler. Where you put it on, it cures, and there's a thing of air in there. And so when you're sanding it, you'll hit that air pocket, and and that's where you get out the old acrylic snot putty.
Oh,
And you would skim it with that to fill that pinhole, and you prime it and you paint it. And a month later, when it's in the sun, that snot putty shrunk, and you see a little tiny little ring where that snot putty was.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that stuff kind of sucked.
it did. It
Yeah.
had its place.
Yeah.
It had its place in a collision shop, and you're in the booth and you're ready to paint, and
that
there's
was
a
it.
scratch. I'm like, why didn't the body man get that scratch out? And you get the old snot putty out and
Never put it there.
send it down the road. They'll never notice it. I'm glad I don't work in a collision shop anymore.
Mm.
It's quick. These all take the same kind of hardener. It's a cream hardener. Some are blue, some are red. There's no difference. The tricky part is how much do you put on. It's trial and error. You'll figure it out. It's on a warm day like this, you can get away with a little less. When it's cold, you want a little bit more. Change of season, I always end up wasting, like when summer comes, I always end up wasting a bunch of body filler because it's a lot warmer. And I'm like, oh, you put this is what you've been putting it on all winter long, and then you mixing it up and you start spreading it, and you get about halfway through and it's kicked. And you're like, that's right, it's 80 degrees out, not 60. So it is very temperature sensitive. But for a puddle this size, that's about all you really need. Yep. Bunch of theories on mixing body filler. I won't go too crazy about it. I've had, people say never stir your body filler because that's what will work air into it. This is true. It was especially true with the thicker, older body fillers. I've been doing this for a while now with this newer body filler. I actually stir mine up. So I stir it, get the hardener mixed in. Yes, am I working some air into this? I sure am. But if you have a panel that's a Bondo board that's a lot bigger than the size of the thing of Bondo that you need, you do that, then you take your spreader and you actually work it. So you come in, if anyone ever done joint compound, it's very similar. Now this is kind of what gets a lot of the air out, which a lot of guys don't do, is it's all mixed up. The hardener's all mixed through it, it's fine. This just kind of pushes the air out. And again, this stuff is so runny, like when you saw it go on there, the air kind of just works itself out. Do you still get pinholes? Yes, very few. No more than you did if you did it the other way. That's just faster. I mean, to fold it in takes a little bit longer. Not a huge deal. We know where our dent is. We kind of know how far it extended. We saw that. The key to this, get it on the panel. Don't worry about making it super smooth. Get it on. I'm going to purposely just kind of cake it on and not work it. Another thing for getting air out of it is working it on the panel itself. So if you have a dent that's in a little easier area to mess with, like this, we'll go right over this one. You work, just like you did on that board, you just kind of keep working it, and that will push a lot of that air out. So, not very pretty. You don't care. This is your first coat, and a lot of times you can get away with just one coat. I'm gonna over sand this and everything so that we can show what to do afterwards. But when you're doing an entire, say, quarter panel, and it's full of dent, you got to skim basically the whole panel. Get it on. Just don't worry. Get it on the panel. Get your build. There's way more on there than it really needs for that dent. That's okay. A lot of times we'll say, put a gallon on, sand 2 off. I'm gonna just load this up.
You don't have to worry so much about like the edge, like that body line that's going there. Cause
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
What I'll do here, I'm just making sure this doesn't kick off too quickly. So here you can kind of,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
you can kind of work it like that, and you can take this and finagle it like that. And you can kind of do the same thing up here. We didn't work this dent out here, so
Right.
typically if we had worked this dent out, I would leave this and I would end up going up the panel this way to coat this whole area. But I'm just kind of, I'm going to leave that right now just so we can actually see how easy it is to actually take that off. If I was doing this for real and I didn't have to worry about this, yes, I would take my spreader and just go like that and take that little bit off. I can do it here. It kind of just neatens it up a little bit. This stuff, another thing too, if you really want to get pinholes in it, see how it's already started to kick?
Yeah.
If you want pinholes, spread it now.
Oh.
As soon as it starts to kick, stop. Because if you try to work that now, it will be full. No, silence your phones during class. Mr. Pilcher,
Sorry.
we've talked about this. See me after class.
Yeah. I'll sniff the Bondo.
So, while that's setting up, it's not going to take all that long, and I'm actually going to show you how to sand that. And where if you don't have all these fancy sanders at home, and I'll get into which those do. What was I going to say? Oh, sanding blocks. There's a million sanding blocks out there. Just like my hammer, there's a few that are my go-tos. I have a couple of these that are in different lengths. Durablock, they've been around for quite a while. It's a foam block, but you can see this one's really pretty rigid. It doesn't have much give to it. It's very flat. It's great for real flat panels, getting something really straight. So some of these are my go-to for something really flat. My next, or my latest and greatest favorite ones are these ones by Motor Guard. On their own, they're a foam like that, a lot softer. On their own, they're pretty flat. If you're not really pushing it, you can still work something out and make it really flat with just this. What I love about these is how often are you really sanding. Like this fender, yeah, it's got a lot of real flat areas, but this used to curve up here. So let's say we fix this and we've got this curve that we need to do. Well, this will bend. So again, I've seen a lot of people in the end they'll take a small block that's really hard and they're shaping it like this. It works, but you're only using the very center. It's like it's working, it's just taking a while, and it's like, I'm a little, shit, now I'm a little low here, and I'm still high there, and you're trying to just shape it with an area this big. This, you can actually roll it right over it. And the sandpapers, and we get them by the roll, these are sticky, so that you just roll it out onto here, and when they're when you have a soft block and you know that you're going to want to have it like this, you can actually bend the block and put the piece of paper on while it's bent, and it will hold it in a rough shape. And it's like, but it will still have enough bend. So now when you do this, you've already got kind of the shape, and it will work its way a lot faster, a lot easier. You can also, when you're doing an inspection special, 2x4 pieces of wood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times guys will have dowels and all these different weird shaped things in their boxes for doing different shapes and everything. Now they have all these foam ones that you can get a kit like this that has all these crazy shapes. It's like there's like a dozen of them, and they all have different contours and stuff. These are really handy. If you can imagine you had to do something like this, it's already got that bend in it, so you put the piece of paper on there, and you can sand it and have already that curve to it. Same thing if you're doing a long straight thing like this, and that curves like that, you've already got that curve, so you can get it a rough shape pretty fast. Handy, not necessary. If you're doing it all day long, yeah, you want these. If you're doing it at home, I wouldn't worry about these. Getting there. So yeah, these come in different lengths. There's this one, which is off the same kind of block, really flexible. These are great for doing little small areas like this, something like this. The other thing I like about these two being slightly soft is that when you put your piece of paper on it, you can roll it over the edge a little bit, so that when you come up to something, you can sand into something, and it's not. It's going to give just a little bit, so that it will contour, but it won't contour so much that you're not still blocking. If that makes sense.
So those blocks must come in different, like stiffness, firm, soft.
Well, this particular brand, this series,
Yeah.
is like this. So it's actually two thicker or more dense foams with a
Yep.
with a less one in the center. These are really pretty rugged. The more stiff the block is, the straighter you're going to get it. Especially if you're doing a real long panel. We've got some in that drawer there that are this long.
Yeah.
Bedsides or long quarter panels.
Those are
those are the way to go with those. Trying to hit next. One of the things that yes.
If you're doing an overall car,
Mm-hmm.
how many gallons of the lightweight do you think you're gonna have?
Is it your car or somebody else's?
You professionally, not what I'm gonna do. 'Cause I'm gonna use as little as I can.
Again, we buy the filler by 3-gallon pails. So yeah, you could go through 3 gallons on a car easy. But again, it's put a gallon on, sand 2 off. So that's why I was saying here, like a lot of people, like they know the dent's only right here. It's only that big. Why do I have it way out here? What will end up happening is if you have just body filler and that, just try to just fill that, you're gonna sand it and it's still gonna be low. And now you're skimming in it again. So the way we typically use, you overfill it at first. So you're way past your dented area. It's way thicker. You know you've got that dent filled. We didn't take it all the way out up here, kind of on purpose. So it's way thicker than you need to. You don't, that first coat, you don't need to really get it fine. So yeah, on a full car, it would be easily 3 gallons. I mean,
And you don't use any of the spray on? It's all.
yes, sort of. Yeah, which I'll show here in a minute. Board files. I don't know how familiar you are. This is an old, they call it board file. It goes back and forth like this. Noisy as all hell. It has a wicked exhaust in the back here from the air going through it. So as you're doing it, this is something that you would use. The rock's on paper. This would stick on here. This is when you've got a whole panel covered in Bondo, because it was just dented and twisted, and it's not uncommon to skim an entire panel with body filler. This works really fast. These are obtainable relatively cheap. This is a Viking. I don't even know. Personally, I haven't used this style in a long time. I had them in the beginning because everybody had them. Personally, I've switched to Bernie Sander. You can see Bernie on there.
Okay.
This is Bernie Sander. Same idea. It's a long straight board. This one oscillates just like that DA does. So it's doing this. What I find with the one that goes just straight back and forth, if you stay in one spot slightly too long, you'll put a big friggin' line in it. So when you're doing it, it's, you know, experience, you know not to stop because you'll put a big line, especially if you get it on an edge, it's gonna dig. This will do that too, just not nearly as much. Anyway, you can get away from it. This is the easiest way.
Yeah.
This, when you have this plug, well, I'll show you the noise factor. So this, it means business. You put something like that 36 grit on here, you're gonna take that down in 3 seconds.
Keep your coworkers away when you're doing a whole panel.
What's that?
Keep your coworkers away when
It does, yeah, yep. Hence why we have 2 exhaust fans and a curtain, so that when you get in here, you can kick those fans on and draw that curtain. You can make the dustiest mess you want in here, and it more or less keeps it contained. This one kind of sounds like that DA that we used a few minutes ago. And you can see the action on that one goes back and forth. Lot smoother. That one tends to like jump on you and just you really gotta practice with it to get it. This one tends to be a lot more forgiving. You can and in fact, this when I hit this panel in the very beginning with the hand block, I've got to the point now where I take that paper 180 grit, I'll throw it on this, and I'll use this in the beginning. Does kind of the same thing, just 3 times as fast. They're expensive, so figured I'd show it, but we're not gonna use it. We're gonna kind of go with the what everybody can get at Harbor Freight. One little trick, this is still a little bit sticky, is if we were already doing some body work and we had a bunch of dust on the floor, one of the things, it's dry, but it has a little film. It's a lot, that's the other thing about some of this newer stuff. It'll dry, but it will have this sticky film on the outside that will stay there for a while. There's a couple things you can do. A lot of times, people would take lacquer thinner, and you just take a little lacquer thinner on a rag, and you wipe it real quick, and that often will get rid of that stickiness, because that stickiness will clog your paper up super fast. If you've already been doing a bunch of sanding, a lot of times I just take a handful of that dust, and I'll just put it on the panel and rub it in and keep on going.
Okay.
So,
If you wait, will the stickiness go away?
what's that?
If you wait.
Yeah, if you keep, it will eventually go away. Yeah. This is more or less, if you're doing it at home, you got the time. But when we're doing it here, we're conscious about the customer and time, and we just want to get it done.
So spread the Bondo, crack the beer.
Exactly. So, this board file, just to show you kind of what this can do at first, we're going to cut this body filler with some aggressive grit. One of the things that some people, is a misconception, is they're too scared to use some really aggressive grits at first. This is 80. So if I was to take this down with one of these, I would use 80 on a dent this size. You can see it takes down pretty fast. But if you don't have one of those, we're going to do it by hand. So this is where we take our really rigid block, our rocks on paper, 36 grit. on a good day. Another old technique, and I know I have one here somewhere, but I don't know where it is because I don't ever use it, is a file or a cheese grater.
Yeah.
You'll use a cheese grater, you run that thing across there, and the body fillers, that's the contoured one. Yep. That removes skin beautifully when you miss. So again, this is just 36 on here. Now when you're sanding body filler, primer, anything, you want to keep the blocks perpendicular to the panel at all times. You don't want to do this right now because we're on a round, especially we're working this right here. That's it. So we're not spanning that distance to get something straight. So you keep it perpendicular to the panel almost at all times. So the other thing you do is you do a cross pattern. So we go this way, we go this way, this way. You can see how quickly that's coming down. Right now I'm putting a little bit more pressure on this because there is a dent right there. You can kind of see it. I'm not going to worry about it. Demonstration purposes. Again, we were talking about that big thing on the edge there. Same sort of thing, keeping it perpendicular to the panel. I'm just using the edge of the block to kind of just take it off. Same thing, I'm going to keep a little pressure on this edge to get this line. It's too bad. This dent is going to throw everybody off. But you can see that's pretty roughed out right there. Again, this is why I always put way more on than you need. So we know we're full here. But we're gonna stop with this and we're gonna switch to a finer grit. So this is where we would go to 80. And even I'm using a soft block here, but it'll still accomplish the same thing. So, well, here's something. So the 36 these giant gouges, and if anyone's seen bad paint jobs, looks great the day you picked it up. 3 months down the road, you look and you see all these sand marks. Two things cause that. One is the body filler itself, even though it's dry, you can sand it, it's not cured. It takes a long time for it to really dry, shrink up, and do all that stuff. And the other thing that does that, which is more so than the filler, is the primer. The primer's dry, you can sand it, it's smooth, it's straight, you paint it, it looks great. That primer still has a bunch of solvent in it, it evaporates eventually, and it shrinks. And when it shrinks, it's going to shrink into that big line, and that's what's going to make that show up. So when you do your body work, you want to make sure that you finish it with something so fine that if something shrinks on you, it's not going to show up, more or less. So another way you can check for those big lines, the old handy dandy black etching primer. You can do this. Now this will do something else for you too, is if you've still got a high spot or something, now it's really going to show up. This is called a guide coat. We use this more so on primer, but this is going to kind of just show you. I'm going real light right now, like hardly putting any pressure on it, because I want it to show you. See how they show up now? Yeah. So, you know, let's say we filled our dent and everything, and we just went to primer and into paint. Down the road, that line's going to show up. So, this is 80. We took the bulk of it off with 36. We're getting our shape now. We're making sure it's straight. I'm actually rolling into this dent that's right here. We wanted to take it out, but I'm actually gonna pretend it's a body line. So I'm gonna actually just keep the dent there. And what I'm doing is putting more of my pressure. I'm keeping this on the panel back here, but I'm putting a little more pressure up front. Still doing the X pattern. Dent still there, rolls into it. Because it's not a dent, it's a body line. What's that?
What guide code is better, the powder or spray?
Yes. So here, they make actual guide coat in a can. So this is just like what I sprayed on there. The only difference is that's dry, like right now. So this is almost more like a dye than it is an actual primer with this has actually got a little bit of body to it. This is like really thin, dries super fast, doesn't gum up your paper. So this is what we use for guide coat. But if you don't want to buy another thing of guide coat and you have some black self-etching primer, it'll do the same thing. Or they do make the guide coat. This is a piece of foam, and this is just a black graphite powder. And you put it on. Now we'll take yet another block. Again, you would still do this with long blocks, but I'm just trying to show different stuff. We're gonna switch to 180. This is the same grit that we use to just check for dents. So this is 180. And again, I'm gonna just put real light pressure on here just to show you. So remember that 80 grit took out all those 36 scratches, so the guide coat was gone. So now this is 180 over the 80 grit, so now we see the 80 grit scratches. So 80 grit will still show up through a paint job. So this is 180, and we would sand it out with that. Work it into that body line that's right there. Now you can see all those, at least I think they're gone. I don't have my glasses on, so I...
typically stop when the primer's still built up.
What's that?
You don't go right down to the smooth. You go down each grade to the
Right, so there's a few scratches I think that are still there, but...
And you'll leave enough primer there, I guess. Is what I'm
They'll-
saying,
yeah.
Along the whole thing.
So
you can
typically,
sand it off.
180 is fine enough that you can go over that with your average primer surfacer. So there's differences between an etch primer. A primer is something that just makes something adhere. So the primer is this black stuff. Primer surfacer is something that you put on that has a lot of build of multiple coats. This is a one coat only kind of thing, keeps the panel from rusting. Primer surfacer is like what's on here, that's thick. That's what you block sand to make something really straight. So if you have like a minor imperfection here or something, like, oh, that little dent that we had in the beginning that was right there, let's say we didn't get that out all the way and it's just barely showing right there. I mean, like you can just barely feel it, but you can feel it. That primer will cover it.
Wow.
So, which we'll see in a second. So you don't need to be super fussy with your body work. The fussier you are, the better job you will get, but you don't have to be. You can let your primer do some of the work for you. That's what it was meant for, the primer surfacer, excuse me.
Trying to do.
And
That's
I-
all it is.
yeah.
That's on my roof.
So, that's just basically the basics of taking it. So let's say that our last skim, it was already setting up and it got all chunky, and we sand this and it's got a bunch of pinholes in it. Instead of the old red lead, they have what they call glaze coat now, and it comes in different forms, a lot of these little plastic squeeze bottles. This particular brand started putting it in these IV bags, so you can just, no. The easiest way to describe this stuff is it's super runny body filler. Again, not meant for anything thick, not meant for anything structural, but let's say that big scratch is still there for whatever reason. But man, if we're straight, we don't want to sand that scratch out, because if we keep on sanding, now we're going to be low there and we're going to be applying body filler. Why I always put more filler on way more than you actually need is I've seen so many people not put enough fill on. They got the dent, but they didn't realize there was one right here or whatever. They'll sand it and they sand too far. So you don't want it perfect on those. You don't want to feather it out so much on those first couple of grits. You want your final feather out to be that 180. A lot of people they'll sand it too far. They'll sand, and then that ring shows up, or there's still a spot over here. If you have let's say there's a little low spot right here. I have a pencil. So let's say we did this and we didn't get this dent out that's right here. It's almost out, but we know we're good here, and we know we're good here, but we just didn't quite get it. So that's when you would put a second coat on. What you don't want to do is put your body filler like that. You can, if you're really good and you've been doing it a long time, you can do it and get away with it. Because what you're going to do now is you're going to sand this spot so that dent is gone, and now you're going to be low here and here, and it's going to be like this. So if you've got a little dent there, do a swipe that fills it, and then take another swipe, again where it's really thin, and skim that whole area again. Really push on the spreader, so you're not thick, but yet you've got just a little bit of material out here, so that when you sand that, you're not making low spots again. You're getting rid of that, but you're not sanding this and this too far now to where you end up chasing it. So it's like, oh, you do that, and now you're low over here. So you put some here, and then you spread it, and now you're low over here. Skim that whole area again.
So body filler over body filler is okay.
Body filler over body filler is fine. Yep.
180 grit's okay, it's all over the 180 sanding, is usually just roughing up anymore.
Nope. You can go right over it. In fact, you can go body filler right over more or less fresh unsanded body filler. It'll still stick. It's still, like I said, it's dry. You can sand it and everything. It's not fully cured, like that stickiness and all that stuff. It's still open. You can skim over it. If it's been sitting for a week because your wife called you in for dinner and you had to leave it, typically you want to stuff it up, but it's not overly necessary, things like that. But yeah, you can go right over 180. You don't need to rough it up anymore to put more body filler over it. What am I missing?
When would they use that?
Oh, the glaze. Yeah, the glaze. Yeah.
You have to add hardener to that?
Yep, same thing. It uses the hardener just like the body fillers do. It's super. Picture
Like
yogurt or pancake batter. It
Okay.
actually looks a lot like pancake batter, runny pancake batter. So if you have a few of those pinholes from air, same thing. You do this and you skim it with that. Again, don't don't hit just that one little, you can if it's really small, but if you've got a whole bunch of pinholes or something, just do that real tight skim, we call it, over that whole area. And that way when you sand that out, you're not making low spots anywhere else. And again, it's not meant to really, if you got a small, you're finishing this up, but you didn't see that little tiny dent right there, the glaze coat's fine. That's fine. You just don't want to fill that dent with that glaze coat. Yeah. So you get this all done. It looks great. Then what do? You bought some primer surfacer that is just that. It's a primer surfacer. There are some that are direct to metal. They're good. Some of what we use here is a product that's direct to metal. So technically, we don't need to put our etch prime back on it. But actually, you know what? Let's paint this. Kind of wet enough now you can see it, but it's looks great.
It does.
Looks great for one of John Brulat's cars. All right.
What's
Last.
the highest number sandpaper you need for just a person doing small repairs on their vehicle? You said
All right.
5,000's overkill, that must be.
Yeah, 5,000's for sanding paint.
Okay.
For doing body work in primer, essentially you're not going to go much coarser than 320. So 36 on some paper, 80, 180, 220, which we're going to do in a second, 320, and some people will sand something before paint with 600, which is great if you're going to go paint directly to primer and not seal. Yeah, you want to have something like 500, 600. We seal everything. We put a coat of this down before we put the paint. That gives you a uniform color. When you sand something for paint, you're gonna get an edge that you've sanded through here or there. So this is gonna make everything uniform. If your paint's slightly transparent, you won't see that little burn through. It'll give you that corrosion protection, all that stuff. And that, in the paint, the primer that we use, I've actually gone over 220 because it tends to be pretty hard. But yeah, if you're getting a urethane primer surfacer at VIP or something, it's a 4-to-1 mix-in ratio. You'll want to sand it out with probably 320. But the other thing we're going to hit here just quickly, what time it is. Not too bad. So here's a panel that I did zero body work to, and I did something called a letdown on it, which is so this right here is what we have here. This is the etching primer that we put on bare metal. I sanded it a little bit so you can see the little dents and stuff in here. So what you do after this, you put another coat of that, which you can see here. And then here, this is 3 coats of primer surfacer. This is stuff that's meant to be sanded for a smooth finish and fill imperfections, sand scratches, a dent that you may have missed a lot of times. Like I didn't do it on this. There is a dent right here somewhere, but it's many times on that first, what they call first prime, I hit it and shit, there's that one little dent right there. Not bad. It's not bad. So as soon as that first coat flashes a little bit, I'll come over and I'll just put another coat right on that dent. I've sanded filled dents with primer before. Nothing wrong with it. Works. But so here we have 3 coats of primer surfacer, and I don't know if you can see them over there, but you can definitely feel them. So if you run your hand across, there's one here, There's one here, and in fact, I would recommend that you guys actually run your hand across it, because those 3 different coats, you'll feel the thickness of every coat. So let me, I'm just gonna hit this with 180 real quick so you can see the lines. Primer surface. Actually, the primer that we use here is stuff called All You Need. So it is a direct to metal, has corrosion protection in it, so we don't need to do that black. The awesome thing about it is it comes in all kinds of different colors. So my first coat, I mix up black. It comes in black or dark gray. So my first coat I put on, it's that black. And then if we're painting a red car, maybe we'll use the red. Or they make a yellow, they make a light gray. So that first coat we put down, doesn't matter what color it is, as long as it's a different color from whatever you're gonna put. That first coat would be black. Your next coat would be, or next 3 coats would be whatever it is that you want to use. The reason we do that is when you're block sanding this to make sure everything's smooth, you block sand it away and you block sand it. Oh, it's going to take me forever over there because there's 3 coats over there. But you block sand and you block sand and you have block sand. It's going to take forever with this too. It's thick stuff. Almost got that dent out or that little imperfection. I'm going to put the guide coat on this in a minute. Working it. Oh, that dent's almost out. We're out of primer.
Yeah.
So when you sand it away and you're sanding it away, as soon as you start to see your black etch prime, you know you're out of material. So either you've blocked out what you needed to block out, or you know you got to stop and put some filler on there or something. Really handy having that first coat be a different color. In the interest of time, I'm going to take, so what we do on almost every one of the paint jobs here is we prime it at least twice. So we've done all our body work, we've primed these panels, and then we let them sit for about a month, sometimes less. The primer that we use now is actually sprayable polyester. It's not a urethane. Most of what you get now is a 4-to-1 urethane primer surfacer. That's what you'll get at your common parts store. They are making more polyester primers. So the best way to describe this primer surfacer is sprayable Bondo. Is almost basically what it is. They've had feather fill, all these sprayable polyesters for a while, and they've worked well in the past when used correctly, but they've also come a long way now. So they don't shrink. When we were talking about those sand lines, the urethane will shrink, the sprayable polyester won't. It shrinks, but like 1/10 of what it does to the urethane. The other trick is that old guide coat. So what the guide coat's really going to do, and you can see it here, I'm going to go a little heavy just so for the effect. You only need like that much essentially, but we're going to go a little heavier so you guys can really see what's going on. We don't run out. So, you've done your body work on your panel, you've got it all in primer. If you're gonna reprime it, you can start sanding it with 180. So the same grit that you finished your body work with, you can block sand with 180. The primer that we use here, that sprayable poly, it's so thick and it's actually really kind of hard. So we've gone, whatever we used to finish something with, we're finishing with a grit slightly more aggressive than that. So again, we were blocking this We would probably block it with 180. I'm gonna hit it with 80 grit just so it blocks fast and you can see what we're actually doing. For everything here, I said we prime it twice. So what you'd end up doing is blocking this all with 180. In fact, we use 120. And then sometimes at the very end, we'll switch to 180 at the very end just to take some of those 120 scratches out. And then we prime it again and then sand that and then paint. So why we do that is you always inevitably, again, keep your block parallel to the panel. This door has a style line that goes just like that. So if you go like this, it's gonna kind of ride up on it. I know that style line's there. I wanna ride that style line like that. Out here, it's flat, so we're just gonna sand it just flat. You can see my difference each coat.
See those lines, yeah.
But it also is gonna, the guide coat is gonna make that dent we missed, which I didn't miss, I left it there on purpose. It show right up. And if you guys feel that, that's a pretty significant dent. Like,
I'm not worried about that.
Can I use?
A lot right here.
Do you have a code?
feel that? Yeah. Come all the way out, but I bet we're gonna get it really close.
Just
We're going to take it down, like I said, about 75% of the way.
yeah.
You want to say?
Fill out my application.
Final prime, that's why it's non.
Do you try to sand the bulk of that off, the primer?
Nope, you want to sand it so it's perfectly smooth. But you don't want any of
You could literally feel it.